right, guys. Last segment. Be sure to hit the like button. It's free. It don't cost you a damn thing. So hit the like button now. All right, guys. So, oh Lord. So I know some of you guys, watch sports, right? And sports betting has really um gained a lot of traction over really the last 4 or 5 years or so. DraftKings and FanDuel are really the two biggest sports betting platforms. They've been around for shit 2015, 2014. Like, I used it a little bit. I didn't win nothing, but hey, I like watching NBA or NFL. And, you bet on basically what those platforms do. Like they'll say how many threes will Steph hit, and like Steph and Curry will hit in the game, and you can say like he'll hit three threes in the first quarter or some shit like that. And when you do it, you have a chance to win a prize pool. How much, whatever it is, it really don't matter. But just like every other corporation, they have sleazily. Can't talk, man. See, it's what shady practices. So, all right, guys. So, this is for More Perfect Union. I'm not gonna play the whole thing. I'm just gonna play like first few minutes or so of it. So, all right, guys. Here we go.
And that's going to create a safety. And that's going to end the game. And you know why I'm laughing, don't you?
Yeah.
Of course you do.
In just a few short years, how did we go from broadcasters making subtle references to gamblers?
There are some people happy, some not so happy.
Right, and there are some going, I can't believe what just happened.
To this.
A record Super Bowl.
Caesar's Super Official partner of
biggest parlay I've ever hit. Over $500,000.
Anita Maxine.
Well, it's a funny story. To me, this isn't just research or something that's academic. I mean, it's something I grew up around. I've been around it my whole life. I'm from Hot Springs, Arkansas, which once upon a time was America's gambling capital. Long before Vegas was Vegas, Hot Springs was Vegas in the United States. I grew up in a town where there was a bookie on the Chamber of Commerce. I grew up going to the racetrack with my family on the weekends. It wasn't something that I saw as being some sort of behavior that was pathological or taboo. That's just what we did for fun. And it wasn't until I was able to leave that place and travel a bit to realize that not everybody in America thought about it the same way, especially not in the 80s and 90s. I mean, Pete Rose was a big deal.
Mr. Rose has accepted baseball's ultimate sanction, which is lifetime ineligibility.
Did you bet on your own team?
Yes.
There's a name for it, gambling on sporting events. It's called gaming. It's clandestine, immensely profitable, and entirely illegal, except in the state of Nevada.
I bet just about every week, yeah, when the football games.
A couple of dollars makes the game more interesting.
Today, if you want to bet on a game, you can log on to any one of these apps, and there's literally tens of thousands of different bets that you can make on any given day. There's just a fire hose of bets that are sprayed directly into your...
Yeah, like ESPN got they called ESPN Bet. ESPN got in on the betting thing. It's like Bally don't exist no more. Bally Casino, like it's Mississippi, like not far from where I live. Like you can go there and bet on the game and stuff like that. Like everybody, like people, like something that was considered illegal and slick now it's profitable. I noticed that. So let me continue.
Base. And that's not how it always used to work. If you made a legal regulated bet in Nevada, you had to walk into a sports book, probably in a casino like Caesar's Palace. There was a small menu of things that you could choose from and bet on. You could bet what's called a side, which is picking which side in a game would win, or you could bet on a total, which is betting that the total number of points scored in a match would be over or under a certain number. You could bet some futures, like what team will win the championship in certain sport this year, but that's pretty much it. The idea that you could bet on literally tens of thousands of things every day would have been outrageous back then. That's because the sports books in places like the Stardust in Las Vegas, they operated as amenities to the customers. Casinos only had sports books in order to bring in customers who wanted to bet on the game and hope that they would stay in the casino and gamble on other things. In that sense, it sort of operated as a loss leader for the casino and was subsidized or bankrolled by the rest of the casino. Today, a lot of the sports books that we bet with in America don't have casinos bankrolling them. That puts a lot of pressure on the sports book to make money through sports bets. This can be confounding and frustrating for the shareholders of these publicly traded companies when the CEO has to come to a earnings meeting and tell them that all the favorites covered this season.
While we experienced the most customer-friendly stretch of NFL sport outcomes we've ever seen early in the fourth quarter, which pressures our revenue and adjusted EBITDA in the short term, the overall trajectory of our business is strong.
Customer-friendly stretch of NFL outcomes is code for the bettors won too much.
Just last night, Bengals make that 2-point.
See, they don't want you to win. Even though those ads say, oh, you could win this amount of money. Oh, you can, or you win other things, you know. They want you just to take they want you to give you their money. Hope for, like, for example, Steph Curry don't hit 3 threes in the first quarter. He hit 2. Or, hope, the Bengals, for example, don't score the 2-point conversion. Like, yeah, too many winners. Like, we got to do some shady shit right here. I think that's what they're about to get to in this video. So,
conversion and that last touchdown doesn't go in for a fourth parlay, then would have been very different outcomes. So, things can swing either way.
Understood. Looked like pass interference to me. Thank you very much.
Unlike a lot of businesses in America, the interests of the business and the business's customers here are incredibly diametrically opposed. And so that means that in order for a sports book to make more money, they have to win more money, which is to say that you have to lose more money. That, I think, is a far more problematic dynamic that exists with the expansion of sports betting right now, the relationship between the customer and the provider. I think that creates a relationship to this act.
I think that's a problem too. So basically, they're gonna make it even harder. So they're finding ways for you to make it even harder for you to win. That ain't no surprise, but let me continue.
Activity that's a lot different than what the relationship between the bettor and the bookie used to be. The earliest sports in America were literally just foot races. Those foot races were put together by gamblers for the purposes of betting on. I mean, up until about 1950, the most popular sports in America are baseball, horse racing, and boxing. And baseball really only started to grow in popularity in America when gambling was outlawed at the horse races. And so the bookmakers would start taking bets on ball games from the stands. So we see this sort of cycle where sports in America have really grown in popularity and become a bigger part of American culture because people could figure out how to gamble on it.
Bet on them now at 9-1.
There's always been this question about the morality of it and how much betting on it has a corrupting influence on the sport. But what we know is that even when gambling is prohibited, people have continued to do it. In some ways, gambling is as American as apple pie. There was this real anti-tax attitude among the original colonists, and the way they got around that was they implemented lotteries as sort of a voluntary tax. What's sometimes called a sin tax was very attractive to government leaders who didn't want to tax people who didn't want to pay taxes, but wanted all these things, like that Simpsons episode about the Bear Patrol, where everybody wants things, but they don't want to necessarily pay for it.
Mr. Mayor, I hate to break it to you, but your city is infested with bears. Bear Patrol tax $5. What? This is an outrage!
Harvard and Yale were paid for by lotteries. Lotteries funded a lot of the American Revolution. So gambling has always been a part of the fabric of America, going right to the very beginning of America's founding. Most of us who are just regular recreational gamblers, we want to put a little bit at risk, but we like the idea or the promise that we could win a lot. And that's why lotteries are tremendously popular.
Record-breaking Powerball jackpot has reached $1.6 billion.
The chances of hitting the top prize are only 1 in 292 million. There is a chance.
That's crazy about the lottery though. Like, you win that money, but like almost half of it, a little over half of it goes to the fucking in taxes. Like, they could at least like say that, but they like, people actually think they win $50 million and they really get $20 million. Like, damn. Yeah.
If you're not in it, you can't win it.
Government has come to really depend on gambling revenues. I mean, we've got literally tens of billions of dollars in tax revenue from the local and state and federal level are collected from gambling all over the country. Today, there's brick and mortar casino gambling in 40 states, and there's some form of gambling in every state except for 2. Now they're looking at sports betting as being just the latest chapter in a way that they can create brand new tax revenues without having to raise more traditional taxes on people.
This kind of gaming used to be extremely taboo, but when you look at all the tax revenue possible, states legalizing this, there's some incentivizing.
It was a pretty easy pitch. They essentially went in and said, pass this bill, we'll open up in your state, and we'll give you all the money you need to do it.
In Montana, it goes to fund STEM scholarship funds. In Illinois, it's specifically directed to fund improvements.
Yeah, I don't mind schools. I don't mind, the revenue from when you play the lottery. Like, I think Arkansas do that too. It goes to education. Like, I don't mind. I don't mind that. Like, it's generating revenue for the state to do things for the people. Like, state government supposed to serve the people in their state, obviously. But yeah, it's just the problem is that these other, like the FanDuels and the FanDuels and DraftKings, like, they shady practices of you not winning, making it harder for you to win, because when you win, it takes their revenue away. Like, again, like that CEO said, like, hey, I'm beholden to the shareholders. All right.
To roads and schools. And in Colorado, it goes towards the state's water conservation plan.
For the longest time, the professional sports leagues in America were vehemently opposed to gambling in any way, shape, or form. The NFL wouldn't even let NBC advertise the show Las Vegas during NFL broadcasts on their network. That's how little they wanted to be associated with gambling. They didn't even want the network to advertise a television show that was set in Las Vegas on their football broadcasts. There was this feeling that being associated with gambling would somehow hurt the leagues and their credibility and their integrity.
I think we still strongly oppose in that room and otherwise legalize sports gambling. The integrity of our game is number one. We will not compromise on that.
It so happens that the state of New Jersey challenged the constitutionality of the federal ban.
What I was really fighting for was each state's ability to make their own choice.
The Supreme Court will allow states to legalize sports betting.
But first, legislation must be passed at the state level.
The first thing we saw was a pretty big marketing push.
You make so much noise. Here's a bonus bet for you and the boys. Hard Rock Bet, single in Florida. Hard Rock Bet, single in Florida.
The marketing was mostly geared towards young men.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of those young men were people who already had been playing what's called daily fantasy sports, but hadn't necessarily ever bet on sports before. I mean, the biggest stars that you could think of were being...
Yeah, like Jamie Foxx right there. Yeah. Like, before, like, sports betting became a legalized thing. Yeah, like, I remember fantasy football. Now they got fantasy basketball and baseball now. Like, I remember playing those. Like, it was actually fun. Like, we didn't play for money. Like, you create your own team with different players from different teams. Like, that's how fantasy sports work. Yeah, like, the goal eventually is to, like, hey, people got these fantasy teams, these corporations say, let's make a profit motive out of this, and that's what you got now.
Enlisted to be in sports betting commercials, to be spokespeople for sports betting companies, athletes. Even the leagues started to sign deals with sportsbooks. They wanted a piece of the pie from the sports betting boom. And they said, if you're going to use our data to process bets and make odds or whatever you're going to do, you're going to pay us a big fee for it.
We think we should be compensated in certain ways for the additional costs we're going to incur through various integrity measures.
So the sports leagues immediately got involved and got into bed with the sports books right away. There was no hesitation at all once it was all legal.
The Supreme Court ruled, we have to adjust.
The Supreme Court made the decision. We've got to adjust to that.
I mean, now you can't go to a professional sporting event in America these days without seeing ads for sports books all over the stadiums and arenas.
People are so upset at sports betting now. They're being forced, the uncouth nature of it, and it's this infiltration of sports that is really frustrating people because people love sports and they want to be able to enjoy this innocently with their kids, with their friends, without being, forced to watch. Charles Barkley told them about his parlay of the day.
I ain't never lost gambling.
Your record is 3-25.
3-25. That's my record for real?
Yes, thank you, FanDuel.
You think this dude? I'm going on a winning streak, brothers.
You know what? Some would call this wagering, gambling. I think the way you've sold this, I think what it is risk-free investment. That's the way to look at it.
They're not professional bettors, but they're
risk-free investment from Reese Davis. Wow. Oh wow. Some people might go beyond the fray and put most of their paycheck towards this set, and that's ultra risk-free. Come on, man. That's cap.
They're misrepresenting themselves as people who are experts in this industry when they really have no idea what they're talking about. Once again, furthering this idea that if you know about sports, you know about sports betting, which is why so many people lose money. They think they have an edge when they don't. And it's something that gambling companies prey upon. It's something that announcers reinforce, and it's a problem not only for kids, but for everybody betting on sports.
If I had to bet football as much as I know, I tell you what, in a year or so, I'd be living under a freeway overpass.
These new sports bettors today are especially susceptible to one of the worst bets you can make, the same game parlay.
Not only can you bet on the Yankees to win, but you can bet on the Yankees to win and Garrett Cole to have a certain number of strikeouts and Aaron Judge to hit a home run. And the products are a lot of fun. And in particular, what they allow people to do is risk a very small amount of.
Yeah, so instead of like the old way of, hey, I project Golden State to win by 10 points. I can say Golden State has to win by 10 points. Steph Curry has to hit 4 threes. Draymond Green has to get 3 technical fouls, something like that. Like, that's how you make it more and more. That's how you make it harder to win. Like, that's what they're doing now. Like, they changed the way it used to be, which it's a scam. Like, for all that to happen is 1 in a million chance. Like, it really is. Like the Draymond get 3 technicals part, that can't happen. But it's wild.
Of money and win a very large amount of money all in one game.
These bets are incredibly lucrative for the sports books. Why? Because they're very hard to hit, but also they're very hard to calculate what the right price should be. When you start to add all these random, weird, correlated or negatively correlated events, the math to figure out what the fair price should be becomes very, very complex. Hardly any of us can do it. So the sportsbook can then bake into those bets a very, very big margin.
When you got overs and unders, you're in it every time they throw the ball, kick the ball, dribble the ball. Now that bet's got you watching every inning, half, round, period, set, hole, a lap.
A typical bet on whether a team will cover the spread, the type of bet that used to be the bread and butter of Las Vegas sportsbook or barroom bookies, would deliver a 5 to 6% return to the sportsbook. A single game parlay, by comparison, will typically return up to 30% to the sportsbook.
Damn.
All my kids are addicted, and well, I shouldn't say addicted, I don't mean that. But when they like the wrong games. You know why? They like the parlays. And they somehow think that a parlay is easy. Could you please tell people how hard it is to win on a parlay?
Well, you don't win as much, but when you win more. And, that's kind of why people like it, because, when they win, they get a big multiple on their money.
This makes these bets sort of the credit deal.
So basically saying, hey, we're actively taking your money because we rigged it to make it impossible for you to win. But if you do win by 1 in a million chance, you get a big, nice payout, which is probably tax deductible too. So yeah, just full of shit. I'm gonna play a little bit more, then I'm gonna move on. Yeah, of course, make it harder.
Default swap of sports betting. It's sort of like that scene in The Big Short with the Jenga pieces. That's what these are. You're putting together a financial product that, as you build these things up, it's worse and worse for you, right? The chances of you winning, but also how bad the bet you're making gets worse and worse. And this is a hard thing for people to understand, because I think most Americans just assume every bet's a bad bet. The house always wins. Of course, whenever I make a bet, I'm supposed to lose. So what difference does it make? I'd rather get the biggest possible payout for the few times that I do win. And that's the problem with that thinking, which I think is very prevalent among gamblers in America today, is that it's not actually true in sports betting. In sports betting, you actually can win, and you actually can have an advantage and have the best of it when you're making your bets. Fundamentally, people should want sports books and betting on sports to be fair. And I don't know that it is fair right now, and I don't know that there's...
Yeah, I'm gonna end it right there. So yeah, it's not fair. They over time, like, you know, the CEOs are beholden to their shareholders, and the shareholders say, "Hey, you need to make this parlay even harder to win because these motherfucking sports nerds sitting in a basement watching, you know, the Warriors win all the time. Like, you got to do something about it." So yeah, like, sports betting should be pretty easy to win. I mean, he's right. Like, you know, it should be pretty easy to win. Like, if, let's say, a good team plays an inferior team, like, the odds are there, the good team will win, right? But when you add these other caveats to it, yeah, it makes it harder. So, yeah, man. My thing is, I wouldn't touch sports betting with a 2 for the pole. I can't tell you what to do, but yeah, like, corruption, man. Like, everything is corrupt. Even America's pastime, which is sports, is corrupt.